Welcome to this episode of the Orange County Atheists Show. This is the third episode that I have my wonderful guest, Dan Barker from the Freedom from Religion Foundation. He's all the way out here from Wisconsin. Is that right, Dan? Wisconsin?
Madison.
Right? Madison,
yeah.
Wisconsin. He was a former preacher for 17 years, and for the last 15 or so years, I'm guessing, I don't have my addition correct, if he has been the co-president of the FFRF Foundation, which we explained a little bit about what he does in 2 episodes ago. If you are just watching this now, you can contact me, and for $3 I could send you any of the past episodes that Dan has spoken. Well, the past 2 episodes, excuse me, that Dan has spoken. So let's welcome Dan Barker. Welcome,
Thanks,
Dan.
Bruce.
So this is the 3rd episode now. Thank you for taking the time out to spend a whopping hour and a half. You know, we just finished a convention last weekend that you were at, the Free Thought Alliance Convention.
That was fun.
Yeah, that was a very entertaining full day from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m., I believe it was.
Yeah.
But today we're going to talk about current events. Now, I know that FFRF has a lot of lawsuits going. At first, let's look at the past 5 to 7 years maybe. What have you done in the way of keeping church and state separate for the last 5 to 7 years?
Well, besides I think we have 8 lawsuits right now. Besides the current 8 lawsuits, we've also done a lot of non-litigation, which is basically letters. Mm-hmm. Letters to mayors and high school principals and governors and so on, county executives. And we have legal victories, sometimes just stopping prayer at a city council meeting, mm-hmm. or stopping a public high school from promoting religion, mm-hmm. Or a post office from displaying a nativity scene, or you name it. There's all these different violations. And in 2007, we were before the United States Supreme Court on our faith-based initiative case, where we were suing President Bush. Before that lawsuit, starting back around the year 2000, we had taken a lot of faith-based initiative lawsuits and had won. We stopped a faith-based initiative in Milwaukee. We stopped one in Phoenix, Arizona, which was loosely connected with Chuck Colson's prison ministry. They were taking public money to quote-unquote mentor the children of inmates, right, for reading skills, which sounds like a good idea. Mm-hmm. You know, you want to help out these. But what they were doing was they were simply just reading the Bible and singing Jesus Loves Me and trying to get them into church. It was all pro-evangelical missionizing, public money to missionize.
Now, this is one thing I'm going to interrupt for a moment, because you're not trying to take prayer away from people in America. You're not trying to take God or proselytizing or any type of church-related activity. What you're trying to do is separate them from government and have government not sponsor any religion. So when you're saying you're suing these people and you're writing letters, you're basically trying to have them abide by the law, not take away their religion from them. Is that correct?
Yeah, and we don't even sue the people. We sue the government. Mm-hmm. We sue governments to get the government to respect the Establishment Clause. The government, because there's a difference between private religious activities and governmental activities. So our lawsuits are telling the private Christians, do what you want to do. Do your Christian mentoring. Do your religious programs. Have your prayers. Have your meetings. It's a free country, but do it on your own dime. Mm-hmm. Don't do it on the federal government or the state government.
Or taxpayers' time.
Yeah. Don't use my money to promote your private religious views.
And don't you think the Christians would agree with that, especially if there was Muslims or Buddhists or Hindus using their tax money?
Yeah. And in fact, most Christians do agree with state-church separation. The problems come not from most Christians. It comes from the Christian right. It comes from the evangelicals who don't understand how beautiful our country is on religious freedom. In fact, we are often joined by Christians, Catholics and Protestants and Jews too, mm-hmm. who agree with us that if you mix religion and government, they both get dirty, that it's best to keep them separate. Mm-hmm. And who agree with Benjamin Franklin, who said that if a religion needs the help of government in order to do its mission, that's a sign that it's a bad religion. A good religion will raise its own funds, will persuade on its own, and will do its mission with its own private money. So the Christian right today doesn't understand that. They don't see how bad it makes them look, that in order for them to accomplish their mission, they need the government's help, right? So our lawsuit is actually helping them by making sure the government backs off and stops either endorsing them or helping them with government money. It allows them the chance to really shine on their own and prove to the world how great and wonderful their God is, if such a God exists, right?
What happened to the Bush lawsuit about the faith-based initiative?
Well, what happened with that, we were taking all these lawsuits around the country on the faith-based initiative and winning them. Wisconsin and Arizona and Montana and other places. And we thought, why do we have to run around putting out all these fires? Why not strike at the actual source? Because when Bush came into office in 2001, he set up this Office of Faith-Based Initiative, which uses executive branch money to set up these offices in all these different departments to promote religion, really, to make it easier for private religious groups to get public money. He broke down that wall that had existed before him, like under Clinton and before, where if a religious group wanted to do social work above and beyond their actual religious ministry, they had to set up a separate organization. But when Bush came into office, he broke down that distinction and he said, let's just give money to any group. Let's give it to private churches that have a soup kitchen. Let's give it to any religious organization. He thought he was leveling the playing field, making it easier for them to compete in the supposed marketplace of public money for religious groups to do social work. So we thought that was not right. We decided to challenge the actual formation of the faith-based initiative and President Bush spending our tax dollars to go into these offices of faith-based initiative. And the judge threw us out of court in the trial court saying we didn't have the standing to sue. It was because ordinarily you cannot sue the executive. You know, if you don't like what brand of copy machine they use or what country they invade, you can't sue them, right? But there was a very special exception built into the law, Flast versus Cohen, that said under Establishment Clause violations, you can sue the executive branch if and only if Congress appropriated the money to go into it. And so the court, the judge Shabazz in the district in the court in Madison, federal court, dismissed our lawsuit on standing. Didn't say whether what Bush was doing was right or wrong. Just said you can't sue. We appealed that dismissal to the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals in Chicago, and they agreed with us and overturned it. And they said, in an eloquent decision written by Judge Posner, who is a conservative appointed judge, who said, how else can you get at this violation? How else can you get at it's at a president abusing his office? The thing was that Bush had been asking for congressional money for the faith-based initiative and never got it. Congress never gave it to him. So what Bush did was he took part of his general appropriation. Congress appropriates money to run the administration, right? He took part of that and with his own discretion was using that money to set up the faith-based initiatives. And so
that's a little sneaky, don't you think?
Yeah, especially considering the fact that Congress knew he was doing that and knew he was asking for it. They weren't giving it to him, but then many members of Congress knew exactly what he was going to be doing with the money that they gave, not directed for that, but generally directed that he was then taking to use, right? So the court, the initial judge said we didn't have standing because there was no appropriation. Congress didn't tell Bush to do it, so we couldn't sue. But Judge Posner in the Seventh Circuit flipped it around and says, wait a minute, there's no other way to get at this violation unless